This is the Andre Segovia Show.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the program. I am Andre Segovia. Today, I am joined by a returning guest, singer-songwriter Natasha Owens. The last time she was on this program, she had just released Trump One, and it was a massive hit single. Well, in this in-depth interview, we talk about what her career has been like since that song, and also talk about her most recent hit single, The Chosen One, and also address the controversy that came with said title that some people are making against the song, not having heard it. I gave her a chance to address those critics. So here is my interview with Natasha Owens. Natasha, welcome back to the program. It's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me again. Always good to be with you.
Yeah, it has been. I've seen the trajectory of what's happened since the last time we talked, and I would love to get into that. But before that, I have to ask you. You went to El Salvador, and I have a lot of questions about that, but I just want to keep that as brief. What was your experience like as you were there for the second inauguration for Nayib Bukele, president of El Salvador?
Yes, it was amazing. So I sang at CPAC and met President Bukele, and he is a fan of my music.
Oh, nice.
We got an invitation a couple weeks after that to be some of his guests at his second inauguration. And it was amazing. First of all, the thing that surprised me was how unbelievably sweet and genuine and amazing the El Salvador people are. Back in 2000, we did a missions trip to the Philippines, and that is the only thing that I can compare it to. These people are amazing. They don't want anything. They just want to thank you for coming, and they want to get to know you. So that blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. It was one of those memories of going to this inauguration that I will never forget. He is definitely a freedom fighter, and he is all about freedom and restoration to his country. And if you don't know the story about El Salvador and President Bukele, you need to look him up. He's pretty amazing.
Yes, and you are speaking to an El Salvadoran, something you didn't know about me. So that's why
I know that.
I know. That's why I'm like, I get to talk to him. I get to talk to her about my country. The country of my heritage. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. My parents stem from El Salvador, and I had to take about a decade of an absence and returning because it just wasn't safe for me to return. So the entire family down there didn't know. They never met my wife, not even when she was my girlfriend. So they never met any of my kids thereafter. So we had our first trip in December 2019, and that was before my fourth was born, but it was right before COVID. So we were able to go, and this was during the first tenure of Nayib Bukele. But what a lot of people don't understand about El Salvador is that technically the constitution there says that a president only serves a 5-year term. And that was that. And the people were like, dude, we're going to run out of Nayib Bukele. What then? So he did have the Supreme Court look at the Constitution and says, hey, where does it say I cannot run for re-election?
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court's like, well, it doesn't really say you can't. It's like, very well then. So
amazing. The people absolutely love him. I've never seen anything like it. But, on the other side of it, he has enemies there, not just the cartel and the gangs. He has political enemies that not only have tried to impeach him, but have threatened imprisonment. And, thank goodness that none of that stuck and he was able to get in a second term, because I really do think they're going to see prosperity this second term.
Oh, absolutely. And for those that are interested to learn a lot more about him, I definitely recommend the sit down he had with Tucker Carlson to get a better idea of what he's looking to do for a second term and who he seeks for wisdom from. That's, I think, is the most telling part. But happy belated birthday to your husband, Dave. Was it that same weekend was his birthday?
Yes. We arrived on Thursday. Friday the 31st was his birthday, and we got to celebrate it there and had a cake and everything for him. Like, it was a pretty cool day that he got to experience.
Oh, birthday he won't soon forget, I hope. All right. Well, I guess that we'll leave El Salvador at that for now. We're going to talk about you and your career. It's been interesting that your smash hit single, Trump One, is how you and I got connected. It just dropped over that weekend. It was taking the world by storm. And I'm like, wow, finally, it's a song that speaks the truth. And it really put you on my radar. And I even told you that you were the most fun research for a guest I ever had to do. And,
amazing.
And since then, we struck a kinship. And my kids definitely love you, especially my daughter. So she says hi, by the way. So,
they are precious. by the way. They are so cute. I love getting videos of them singing songs.
Yes, it's really cute. But yeah, they really when we'll talk about the chosen one here in a moment. But since Trump won, you've released other songs, and they're on the political spectrum of things. What has that been like for you leading up to the chosen one?
It's been a different path for me. You know, I was in contemporary Christian for a decade and have 4 albums plus a Christmas album in that genre of music. I did a patriotic album in 2020 that Nashville frowned upon. They just said I don't need to go that direction. And I'm like, well, I just want to illuminate how great this country is. Even with all of its faults, we're still the lighthouse on the hill.
Yeah.
And I wanted to raise money for the veterans because I realized during 2020, like we all did when freedom was taken away for the first time in my lifetime, that was tread upon, that freedom is the most expensive thing that we own. And it should never be something that we give away without a fight. There was a price to pay for that. And I'm thankful to our vets. And so I just wanted to illuminate that in freedom. And I did a pro-life song on that album because no one's ever given the pro-life movement an anthem. And I wanted to give them an anthem called Stand for Life. And I say that's what got me kicked out of Christian music. It's just very progressive there in Nashville. And, you know, radio stations were trying to get me fired off of events. And but I swung that's what made me swing in the political realm. I thought all these topics that we're not allowed to talk about in today's society, it's not okay for both sides. The other side can talk about it, but when the conservatives or the right stand up, suddenly we get censored and we're not allowed to talk about it. Well, I'm covered under a different level of protections, freedom of expression. That's why you hear rap artists and other rock artists talk about rape and drugs and murder. You're allowed to express yourself through music. And so I wanted to, with Trump won, I wanted to shine a light on the fact that even if you don't think the 2020 election was stolen, there's some things that didn't go right. And we needed to put a light on them to illuminate them so that they could be fixed, right? Yeah. I want someone to acknowledge that there was somewhat of a problem.
Yes.
So I wanted to give a voice back to the people because we weren't allowed to talk about that particular topic online. And we succeeded in that. That's exactly what happened. People loved it around the world. And I'm still getting messages from people in other countries that say, you don't understand how close you are to losing y'all's absolute freedom and being a communist country, the one that I came from or whatever, and that we're fighting for you, we're praying for y'all, and you have to get President Trump back in. And that's one thing I found with the El Salvador people. When we came around the corner to be escorted into the inauguration to our seats, the El Salvador people saw that we had an American flag and an El Salvador flag pinned on our lapel. And they started chanting America, and they started saying Trump 4 more years. We love Trump. We love Trump. And I think that's one of the reasons why they love Bukele so much, because he is a Trump to the El Salvador people. Whether you acknowledge it or not, during Trump's first administration, he gave more freedom back to the Christians and every demographic of people, every single one. We prospered more under him. And I just pray that we are able to pull this back like El Salvador has been able to.
Yeah, I would love to see something done like Nayib Bukele did when he had a live stream just cabinet meeting and just labeled over the AG and said, I want you to investigate everybody here for corruption.
Everybody in here, because the one thing that will stop a president in his tracks of doing good is a corrupt administration around him. And there are some similarities with the United States on that. And but anyway, even with all of that in Trump's administration, he still accomplished more than any president I've seen in my lifetime for the good of nothing else, the Christian people. So we swung that way. That was our first political song. Up until that point, I had gone a little bit out. You know, I still do Christian events. I still do women's conferences, but I do a lot of Star Spangled Banner, veterans events, political events. And so I thought, let's just start illuminating the topics. So we did a song about the rhinos because I wanted to call out the people who are allowing an evil agenda to some degree to go forth. They have the purse strings and they don't stop them, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to illuminate that in Texas. We had a debacle a year ago here in Texas where our Texas House tried to impeach our amazing Attorney General, and it failed. And so the elections so far in the primaries, we're pushing them out left and right because they did not follow the law on that. So that was a good thing. And that was a good, if nothing else, that Party People song was a anthem to the Texas people, if no one else it was. And then we did a Second Amendment song because even though for the people who know my background and know my story, my dad died cleaning his gun sitting at a table.
Yeah. And
he made a mistake. My uncle was murdered about 5 years prior to that. So my grandmother only had 2 sons. Both of them were killed with guns. And so the media, I often get questions because they don't understand why I'm so pro Second Amendment and pro guns. Well, first of all, I live in the country of Texas. So that you almost have to be pro gun. We love our guns here. No. But I acknowledge that we have a mental health issue. We have a heart issue in this country. When you have billions of guns and millions of concealed handgun owners, we don't necessarily have a gun problem. And people always question me about that. But Charlie Kirk put out some stats within the past 6 months that said if you take 10 cities in the U.S. and you take out the numbers of their gang crimes, you take those out, you take the suicides out, we have less than 200 deaths a year from guns. Is not a gun problem to me. But what's happening is the politicians and in our government want the power, right? And they want to be able to control every aspect of your life. And our guns are the only thing in this country that preserve our freedom. Yes. There was an interview with a Russian general within the past year that said we would have invaded the United States before now, but we knew that we would lose in the neighborhoods because of the people who have the guns.
Yeah.
Throughout history, if you look back at any government that's taken away guns from their people, you had hundreds and billions of people perish after that. It's the only thing. Our second protects our first. And so we put that song out for that reason. I don't know if you want a synopsis of all the songs since.
Oh, no, but it's good to highlight them because a lot of what you just covered, and just to put a fine point on the last thing you mentioned, whenever there's a dictatorship that takes over, the first thing they do is disarm the populace. So even if it wasn't guns, it's knives. And if guns solved the violence issue, we wouldn't have a violent history before guns. But violence has existed since Cain and Abel. So it's just inherently it's in nature. So people that vilify guns, and as a big Batman fan, there must be some Batman stuff from behind me, but it really annoys me because there's been more conversations lately about like why Batman doesn't use guns or whatever. Batman doesn't kill, Batman doesn't use guns. It's like, why? It's like, oh, because his parents were murdered before his very eyes. Yeah, he would have been traumatized by the guy that did it. Yes. Not exactly the weapon, but yeah, sure. Let him beat up people with an inch of their lives with his hands, bare fist. Yeah, that makes it better. Like he sees the light go out of their eyes, but never mind. It's not a gun. Well, that's a good sidetracked.
It upsets me that, our government, if they really want to solve the problem, start closing our border to some degree where you're able to monitor who comes in. Don't go soft on crime. All these DAs in these big cities are allowing crime to happen. They're not even rounding anybody up. They're not putting them in jail. People who are true victims of crimes, like there's a few instances in New York where the good guy got charged when he was just defending himself or other people's lives. Yes. And so the government creates an issue and by being soft on crime. But the first knee-jerk reaction is to take our guns. You're causing a problem to provide a solution. And I understand where they're coming from, but there's other ways that we can approach this gun topic, right? Without disarming good people, because the bad guys are always going to get the guns. You see that in El Salvador, where they you couldn't even walk your dog or jog outside because the crime was so bad because the bad guys had guns. And I don't want that to happen here in our reality. So we did a gun song, and we just continued to talk about topics that I feel need an extra spotlight upon them. And So that's what we've done, leading us into this new one.
Yeah. And just to touch a little bit on your Party People song, because there's a contrast. I don't want people to skim over or just forget what you said. You pretty much got booted out of Christian music in Nashville because of a pro-life song. When I first heard that, you and I talked about this in the last time. I'm like, I want you to repeat that to people, and that's exactly how I felt. Like you got kicked out of the Christian music circle because you did a pro-life song. I believe it was John Chris, and I even sent you a video because he was mocking some some of the songwriting styles. But before that, he was doing a skit with a friend of his where they were getting this new band. They were going to send a label to them and say, all right, so what kind of music do you do? And they were talking about hardships and growing up as a teenager, the struggles that they had, but they were going to detail what they wanted. Yeah, see, how about a storm? Instead, and the ways we're throwing you, instead of being, very detailed of what you're talking about. It's like, no, but that's not, no. He's like, no, but God got you out of the storm, and that's just like quite literally watering down Christian music.
Well, you have to. Go ahead.
No, you're in the circle, so you know exactly what I mean.
Well, I didn't get a certificate saying you're fired and can't come back to contemporary Christian. I just got severe headwinds where I was having radio promoters and calling and saying, hey, shut your mouth. Tell her to shut her mouth, right?
Yeah.
Because I was making comments like, Nashville is so progressive and they don't stand on Christian values, and they should as a Christian music scene, right?
You would think, yes.
I know the left hates the word woke, but I don't know what else to call it. Progressiveness, yes. I said that Nashville's too woke for the audience because the audience is still very conservative, very out of the city in rural areas, and they need to know who that they're talking to. And I had a problem with the watering down. You've got a couple progressives that are the top tiers of contemporary Christian radio promoters, and they decide what makes it into the top 10. And so when a song goes to them, if it is too Jesus, too biblical, too scripture, they will reject it. They want it watered down. Now, if you've got too big of a following, the radio stations in Nashville boycotted like Hillsong for a long time until the audience wanted it. So if you have a massive, massive, massive following, sometimes worship songs and those songs that have a little bit more Jesus in them get through, but they try to water down everything that comes through there, and I don't agree with that. And so my husband had been saying for years I needed to do a Trump One song, and I said I won't have a place to go back to in Nashville because I love singing the Star Spangled Banner and I love singing to veterans, but my heart is for ministry because I'm a restoration project. I wouldn't be alive if it was today. It wasn't for God crossing my path when he did. I wouldn't be alive today.
Yeah.
And I want to help people restore and put the brokenness back in their life and show them Christ. And so I wanted to go back. But when they did that to me on the pro-life song of me being too pro-life, I could offend someone that's had an abortion. And I said, I didn't write the topic on the abortion. The abortion topic's very negative. I didn't write it on that. I didn't write it. The only viewpoint that I wrote it from was the pro-life movement just standing for what God holds dear to his heart, and that's children, and that's life itself. And so it's a very it's not an in-depth song. It just really motivates the core group to stand for life and keep fighting for those precious babies. So I didn't agree with that, and I got very upset that I kept getting fired off of events. And sometimes, the radio stations, these people can be bullies, but good people on our side, good people that are conservative, that are Christian, are too afraid to be hated. They're too afraid not to be loved right now. And the cancel culture is so harsh. The other side is so harsh sometimes. And they don't even know someone, but they're giving death threats type thing.
Yeah.
That they just go along with it and they won't stand up for what's right. And so I just have a new sense of responsibility of trying to, if I can give bravery to one person, to stand up and push back against evil and against things that are not biblical principles, then I've done my job, even if it's just one. So I've just kind of changed trajectory a little bit.
Yeah, and that's why I believe that when people hear your albums, as soon as you made the shift, how God delivered you out of the darkness and strengthened you and restored you. I feel that He prepared you for such a time as this, because you're still fighting a good fight in a place where it almost seems like there just lacks that bravery, the courage to stand up to the truth because of the flaming arrows that are coming at everybody. And we need more of that. One thing that does frustrate me, I have to pull it out for the conservative movement. Why is it that women are leading more than guys? Where are the dudes? It's like, you guys got to stand up too. It's like, it feels like it's more of a woman movement. Not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying that where are the strong men too? I feel that they got a little soy boy on us, and it really is disappointing.
Yes, my opinion on it, you've got a lot of mama bears. So when they started indoctrinating the kids all the way down to the elementary school of sexualizing our children, of putting pornography in schools, in books, I've seen it with my own two eyes. We're fighting a battle here in Texas. That's just, let these kids be innocent. Let them grow up and not know of the flesh side, the evil side, until they're old enough to be able, the maturity level to be able to handle it. The World Health Organization declared within the past 6 months that we need to sexualize our children as early as kindergarten. Yeah. And I'm thinking, these are 5-year-olds. It's unbelievable. So you have a lot of mama bears that reared up at that topic. And like, you just don't mess with our children, right? So I think that's why you're seeing a lot of women blaze a trail. On the flip side of that, we also live in a society that is celebrating the demasculation of men. Yeah. They think that, men should apologize for being so aggressive. And so guess what my topic of my next song coming out soon is going to be? It's going to hit right in that home plate of the demasculation of men. In the Bible, men and women are made for different purposes. We have different strengths, different weaknesses, that when you put us together in a family unit, it makes a perfect combination, right? Yeah. There's things that my husband can do strength-wise that there's no way I can do it, but there's things I can do that he can't. And so I don't think that men should apologize for that. It's biblical, but you have to understand, right now we are not going through a fight of Republican and Democrat. It's not right or left. It is good and evil. Amen. And when I'm on a side that's pushing against sexualizing our children, messing with their identity, because biblically our identity is supposed to be through Christ, this is a war on Christianity. This is to take Christianity completely out of the foundation of our country. And so that's why I am fighting, and that's why I believe I'm on the right side of it. Oh, well, I'll let you have the last word on that. That was really good. Yes. And I look forward to hearing your next song. And I do have some questions I want to ask you after talking about The Chosen One, about that writing process and how long it usually takes to write, to publish. But your newest song, I believe I saw it hit, what's the iTunes charts where it hit 29? It went from 187 to 29 in like less than 24 hours. And I think it got the Trump bump, because I know for a fact that he reposted it. He sure did. It took him about 2 days, which was quicker than the Trump one song for sure. This song's beating all the analytics. Wayne Allen Root is a friend of mine. He has a show on Real America's Voice. Mm-hmm. He's a very outspoken conservative. He's very brash, which I personally like it. I'm a very strong female in the fact that a lot of times President Trump or Wayne Allen Root will say things that I'm thinking, right? I don't think they need to soften it, even though I get where people think that, like Trump is too brash. He's also a New Yorker too, but so he wrote an article back in 2017 when Trump was still in office that said that he's never seen someone persecuted since Jesus Christ. And he was talking about Trump, and he called Trump the chosen one. And so the media immediately at the White House lawn approached him and said, hey, he just called you the chosen one. And Trump, he has a very funny sense of humor sometimes. He said, I am the chosen one. And so the media went crazy and said he's calling himself the Messiah. Mm-hmm. And so Wayne, after the Trump one song, he said, here, we need to do a song regarding this topic. And I said, I don't know if I want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, mm-hmm. because I'm afraid that I would be misrepresented, But then the more time that went by, I thought, my Lord, a year and a half ago, I stood on the Mar A Lago lawn, and I've got a Warrior song on my third album, and I dedicated it to President Trump. I did a concert, and President Trump was there. And I said, I've never seen people come against you. I mean, that this is unbelievable. I think anybody would say that it's a little ridiculous how much he gets thrown at him, and he just keeps standing, right? And I said, I do believe that God sent you. Well, when I say God sent you, I mean the fact that the Bible says that a lot are chosen, a lot are called, but few are chosen. And what does that mean? It means that you accept that calling. You accept and hold the sword of truth and fight for your people. And throughout time, in the Bible, as well as in our United States, for instance, King David, King Cyrus, Esther, Moses, Abraham, you've got very imperfect human people that mess up all the time. Yeah. But you have a perfect God that if they're willing to push back against the evil and to help his people, the Christian people, the Jewish people, anybody that's accepted Christ, then I think that you are chosen, right, for a time as this. So I thought, well, maybe we can write it in such a way to give encouragement to the movement, to give encouragement to President Trump, that he put he put our embassy in Israel, in Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. And he followed through with all these promises. He put 3 Supreme Court justices that were pro-life, and he made that promise before he was ever a president to Susan B. Anthony that whoever he nominated would be pro-life. And a lot of presidents in the past have made that same promise. Yeah. He was the first one that actually followed through with it. And so he put those 3, and whether you agree with the Roe versus Wade thing or not, it needs to be at the state level, because that's where our voice is heard. Not on the federal level. It's on the state level where our representatives are there, and we can easily get to them, whether we are pro-choice or pro-life. And so I feel like that was a wrong that was made right, just because I would rather have my voice heard more. Yes. And I think anybody hearing this broadcast, whether you are pro-choice or not, I think you would agree with that too. You want to have your voice heard, and it's easier on the state and local level. Anyway, so I thought, if we can write this in such a way to show that he's an imperfect man and he messes up all the time, but he's done things to further God's kingdom, and that so we did this song called The Chosen One, and it was a little bit clickbait, in my opinion, because it's one thing to have the conservatives and the Trump supporters to push your music and help make money off of it, and just make a name for yourself. But the other side helps too, when they're freaking out about it, when they're sharing it, when they are clicking on it. Every time it monetizes, every time it gets out. And, in the Christian world, this wasn't the case. But in the world I'm living in now, any publicity is good publicity. Yeah. And so we knew that the controversy of the title was going to help propel the song. And so it was something we just jumped in and said, let's do it.
Yeah, that's why whenever I've done videos where the topic could be very charged and divisive, at the end of it, I said, if you enjoyed my video, thank you very much. If you didn't enjoy my video, I appreciate you just the same for getting through it, because you help with the analytics. So, because like you said, but I'm glad you brought that up, because when I first heard that, I saw your post on Truth where you're going to drop the new song, and I'm like, a new song. The Chosen One. Well, this is gonna be interesting. So my daughter heard me say, "Oh, Natasha Owens gonna drop a new song." It's like, "Oh yeah, Daddy, what is it?" Then I read it out loud. I'm like, I have a little.
before I show it to you is probably what you said.
Yeah, I need to check it out first because I said I trust her to. It could be something to get people talking because she didn't understand what clickbait is yet. So I had to tell her that way. And sure enough, you proven it right. And you did put out a statement in response to the controversy that was drawn because of the title. But
Yeah.
did you see some of the negative remarks coming from just the left, or did you also get it from the Christian right?
It's hard to say. Definitely from the left. And I do think that there are some Christians that, that are legit Christians that were posting negative about it. One, I think probably they bought into the title and into the headlines that the left is saying. I've been a country artist for the past couple years, according to the media, according to anybody introducing me on stage. And I couldn't quite, I'm in contemporary Christian. I would correct that every single time. But it's funny how a narrative, I got the enemy or the left will only expose and talk about your religion when they feel that it will smear you. Right. And so the titles have been, evangelical Christian worship leader releases a worship song to Trump, and which is so far from it. It really is far from that. But
Yeah, it is.
One thing that we've identified is immediately when you put something out, bots come out.
Yes.
We've been researching every comment, and or at least my team has, and 90% of them are bots. They are they're created to cause controversy and to stir it up, and that stirs up everybody else, right? So so you got to take it with a grain of salt, first of all. You've also got to understand that the right and the conservative movement, they don't voice. They vote with their feet. They don't vote. They're not as vocal as the other side, right?
Yeah.
And so and anything President Trump shares, the other side is going to take it and run with it.
Yeah.
So the moment he shared it, I just said, buckle up, But my husband, he laughed the other day and he said, Tosh, he said, you can't go by that. We sent this song out to I'm surrounded by Christian pastors. I'm surrounded by prayer warriors and some good people who know the Bible. And they were my sounding board. And I told them what I was trying to do. I sent them the song and they said, you have nothing to hold your head down about. Go forward. This you do not call him the Messiah. This is not blasphemy. This is not idolatry. And so for the Christians who are saying that, I just think you need to go back and look through time, not only in biblical days into your Bible, but you need to look at culturally. How many times have in culture, just here in America, has our press called people the chosen one? It's just a title. It doesn't mean that they're the Messiah. They've done it to Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, LeBron James. They've done it to President Obama. And nobody got stirred up about it. But you put that title on someone who is fighting for this country. And I believe I know him better than the media knows him, right? We were part of his faith initiative team for 3 years in the White House. I see a side to him that the media either takes out of context or doesn't want you to see. And I was in a massive room with a lot of other people when I saw tears coming down his face. And he said, I could retire, sit down, get my presidential library, get my book deal, and live in peace, retire in peace. But they're wanting to take away my freedom because I will never take away yours. And I saw the backside of being in his administration and part of this faith initiative group that he gave more freedom back to every demographic. Every demographic of person, not just the Christian community. And so I believe him for that. I believe he loves his country. And he just wants to make it great again, right? And even the MAGA term, "Make America Great Again," has been so slandered and hit. What is wrong with that? When you look at the giving around the world, 95% of the giving comes from America and comes from the Christian community.
Yes.
We are the biggest givers around the world. And so if we're not healthy here, if we can't pay our light bill and pay our gas bill and pay our groceries, then we can't give and around the world to make a difference. And so we have to be healthy here. That's what I think of when I hear Make America Great Again. Make us great again so that we can help and make everybody else great as well. But anyway, I forgot where I was going with that whole tangent. Anyway.
No, but it's important because it is something that's personal to you too. And I think what the Chosen One with the music video, people get to see a side of Trump that they don't really get to see because the media won't show that part. They'll either show him like, oh, he's shaking, trying to drink some water. But the controversies we're recording this today is over the weekend, Biden was having this lavishly thrown celebration of him being endorsed by all these elites, a la Hunger Games style, with Jack Black, George Clooney, Julia Roberts, Obama. I forget who else was there, but I believe even Hillary. I don't know if Hillary was at that same thing, but whatever. The point is, all the elites were there, and towards the very end, Biden froze. And this was a video that was recorded by somebody in the stands that was there, and shows the part where Obama had to kind of grab him by the arm and tug him away. But the media is running today, covers it. Here's the unedited version. They're just playing the broadcast. They're not showing the part where Biden freezes. They're not showing the part where Obama grabs him and pulls him away. They just show him Obama wrapping his arm around Biden, walking away. It's like, you guys skipped over several seconds, and you guys got long shots, side shots, and they didn't use any of that.
They do it on purpose. And I think the American people, I know I'm tired. I'm tired of it being so slanted, both in the media, both in the justice system. Just make it fair for both sides. Whatever the good side comes out on both sides, that's great. Whatever the bad side, that's great. But just be fair. Investigative reporting, right? We don't have that anymore. It's just, it's very slanted. And so people like me, who's conservative on the right, feels like that we do not have equal protections, equal rights in this country. And that's a serious, that's a serious thing.
Yeah.
I know where I was going with that last statement. My husband was telling me when we were looking at some of these, and some of them can be very cruel, right? And some of them get to me. I think you don't know my heart. You don't know my story. You don't know how loving and giving of a person I am. And you're saying all of these things that aren't correct, just to make you feel better and to stab below the belt. We've had atheists and agnostic and people who say they're Christians, but they end up cussing me out in a post, but they'll post scripture, right? So my husband was laughing the other day, and he said, "Tosh, look at it. You've got atheist and agnostic and people who have never owned a Bible, would never purchase one, would never open one. They are opening them right now to read, to try to prove you wrong, in order to quote you scripture." So he said, any which way you look at it, God wins in this, because we have people that would never look at his word is looking at it. And so there's always positive in every story, but the media is so slanted, right? And they don't even care what they say anymore. I've seen more people lying in the media, and I'm like, there's no accountability. They know that they're going to get away with it because there's no repercussions anymore. Used to, the media would keep the politicians in check, and keeping them in check anymore because they just, like over the weekend, they cut out all the bad parts and slant it. But then it's just the opposite when it comes to the conservative or the right side. It's they slant all the bad or take it out of context and don't show any of the good stuff. And so you have to weed through that. And as Christians, we have to have discernment. We have to know what is right and what's wrong. And I do think that a lot of Christians who are on their knees asking God for wisdom and guidance, they get that. They get that from the Lord. And so anyway, it makes me mad. If you want to take someone down, give them a fair trial. Don't slant it.
Yeah.
If President Trump did something wrong, I want him to have a fair trial, and I want him to, and if he's found guilty, he's found guilty. But what you can't do is say, for the first time in history, we don't have to have 12 people agree on a verdict or it's a mistrial. I just need 2 or 3, and you don't even have to tie it to a crime. Just, I'll put it in one. This is what the judge was saying to the jury in his trial. Just give me 2 or 3, and I'll put it in one little bow and make it guilty on all counts. That's not a fair trial. It's not a fair trial. It needs to be redone.
No, it wasn't a fair trial. Just like the E. Jean Carroll thing was not a fair trial, and people are realizing this when you see the reaction from Democrats and more left of center that are, hey, I never believed in Trump. I never voted before, whatever. And suddenly they're just donating. They're like, I'm going to vote for Trump. They're in for Trump. They're seeing this, but the media is trying to run as much cover as possible because they're the ones that control the flow of information.
And I want to say this too, in the fact that everyone listening to me, every Democrat, every Republican should be shaken to the core of what has just happened. Yes. Because I would be saying the same thing if President Biden or President Obama or Hillary Clinton went into a trial and they didn't give them a fair trial. We have to preserve our freedoms here. We have to preserve our Constitution. We have to preserve our rights. Otherwise, we're no better than any dictatorship around the world, any communist country. We have to preserve the legal and the justice system, and it has to be fair. And people are waking up to that. There are a lot of people, a lot of good people that are on the left that are saying enough's enough. They cannot do this and get away with it. Mm-hmm. You just can't take down a political figure that is your opponent and change the rules. The actual rule of law at the last minute. You just can't do that. So I hope people will step back, whether you hate Trump or not. You need to step back and you need to start fighting for our justice system.
No, absolutely. And to touch on, to wrap a little bit about the Chosen One, because it was released after the obviously guilty verdict. To me, I would have been shocked if they would have said not guilty. Like, well, wow, so justice prevails. But it's like when it's guilty, and it's like, what did you guys expect from a rigged trial? It's like, why is any of this surprising? But people reacted the same way. It's like, oh my gosh, the outrage. Like, okay, be outraged. But seriously, are you surprised? Just start watching the donations come in. And I was right. Holy smokes. That's why suddenly you see in the like a Friday night drop. It's like Judge Merchant sends to everybody's like, hey, don't you know we found a comment left to a post on the New York's court's Facebook. Want to let you know what that said. And I had a cousin, whatever. And now that's being investigated. When will we find out about it? Don't know. Will it delay the sentencing? Maybe. Is the grounds for mistrial proven right? Absolutely. But when you look at the scope of things, to be honest with you, I'm like, some people have said if Team Trump was looking at this, they say just let it be legit, because then if they try to put him in jail, even more money. This election slam dunk. It's like, I hate playing around with that kind of stuff. But the thing is that all these are optics now, and it is annoying. But going back to the Chosen One, because it was dropped after the guilty verdict. But when did you start writing that song, though? I'm assuming this has been in the process for a while.
It's been in a process for the past year.
Wow.
One thing, we are used to writing contemporary Christian songs. My producer, Ian Eskelin, he's the main writer of my music. I help, my husband helps. But the political topics are a little harder. You want to make sure that what you're saying is truth. You want to make sure it's biblical. You want to make sure that you're not in the wrong or that you slant it in any way. And it's a new world for us, a new territory for us. And so it's been different, and it's taking a while to get it out. It was supposed to be out way before his trial.
Wow.
But we were changing words at the last minute just because... between Wayne's Allen Root's camp and our camp, he had some opinions. We pretty much wrote the song and then didn't give him, we gave him a little bit of a say, but, we just went back and forth. And then we had to get the music video done. So I was praying that the verdict would wait until I dropped this song. I wanted it to be front side and not the back side. But, looking back at it, I think it probably was the best timing to do it on the backside for his PR, right? Than the front side too.
Yeah.
So,
and I just think it did put it a little bit unfair for you. While it's God's time, but it's still a little unfair for you because there were some individuals on the right that were making postings online that were quite literally blasphemous. Even people that I respect, I'm like, okay, that's blasphemy. You're not Christian, but you're still taking something, and it's blasphemy for those of us in the faith. And that's why when I saw when you announced your song, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a breath and I'll hold with judgment until it drops. And like, okay, I felt a lot better about it. And like, I knew that she wasn't
Yeah,
gonna be one of them.
listen to the words that vindicates me in the fact that it's not blasphemy or idolatry. It's just a shame that some people can't listen to it, right? Especially if they know
Correct.
about Trump. They just want to take and they bought right into the click line that the media they misstrued it to really what the song was about too. Why? Because they wanted numbers, they wanted clickbait.
Mm-hmm.
Same type thing. It's strategies on a PR side that you use. But I could have changed it to a chosen one or a fighter or a something or the something. Put whatever word in, and the same people coming against me would be the same people coming against me,
Yes.
regardless of what I actually named it.
Yeah, you can't win. And for those of you that are interested, I'm glad that Natasha shed this on her truth, because this is what blasphemy looks like. It's from Newsweek, the second coming. And this was, I believe it was published right after the election. But this was 2012, the election 2012 of Obama being reelected, which was a less of a turnout than it was the first time when white guilt helped get him elected. But Natasha, maybe you might not be familiar with this other one, because this came out around the time of just shortly after the election too. Are you familiar with Barack Obama being depicted as Jesus with the crown of thorns in a crucifix pose? This was called The Truth.
No, I have not seen that one at all. Now, is that clickbait? Is the article
No,
really?
it's not clickbait. I downloaded this picture as soon as it was posted way back when. This was November 27, 2012. This was from the painting by New York-based artist Michael D. Antone. It's called The Truth. And it was displayed at Boston's Bunker Hill Community College Art Gallery as part of the politically charged Artist on the Stump, The Road to the White House 2012. So he had posted this, and the original intention was for this art piece to be on the 100-day mark of the second term. It was going to be displayed in Times Square. That was in New York. So that was the intent. I don't believe it was ever, it actually made it to Times Square because the controversy that this thing raised. Folks, that's what blasphemy looks like. And that's not what the chosen one is. And I wanted to contrast that because I believe it was just an unfair attack. I expected it, but at the same time, it's like, oh, that's why I thought about, I got to have her on because I need to share this, where people need to see what the left that's criticizing her right now was doing, because they literally called him a messiah,
right?
Quite literally. And that's not what you're doing with Trump. It's unfair what we see happening to him. I had an interview with a fellow podcaster, and he was more on the conservative influence sphere when he was active. His name was William Hall of the William Hall Show. And we recorded, I believe it was December 2020 or 2021. But this is way before Trump would ever announce anything, because he couldn't anyway. But yeah, this is way before the midterms. And we were talking, and at the time was, look, Ron DeSantis might be the next in the fray. And he's from Florida. So he's like, oh yeah, for sure, Ron DeSantis. And then I just threw the question, what if Trump ends up running again? And he's like, well, in that case, I might have to lean for Trump. And I'm like, well, so would I. And I said in that conversation, I hope he doesn't, because I don't want to see his family run through the muck the way they were before.
I said the same thing. I said the exact same thing. I mean, why? I think he proved himself in the first 4 years. We all prospered. I mean, I had zero. When do you get 0% APR in buying a brand new car? I had that. I actually bought a car during his term, and I actually bought a car recently at 9% interest. We all prospered more. And so, but I said the same thing. Lord, what is he thinking? Like, he's just gonna, he can't have peace, right? The media just completely runs him through the mud.
Yeah.
But he knows that. He knows that. And I don't know of anybody else who would take what he took for the past 5-6 years and just continue standing. I think the other side is a little confused by the fact of that too. Everybody else would have just given up. If it was me, I'd be in a corner sucking my thumb by now, right?
Right.
But he has. I mean, that's the sign of a true leader. One that through the good and the bad, he just keeps fighting. And I'm going to stand by that fighter as long as he's standing.
Yeah. And to that, I do too. Cheers. This Trump.
Yep.
2024. I think that's a good place to leave it. I think I gave you a chance to respond to a lot of the criticism and also highlight what real blasphemy looks like.
Yes.
And I really do thank you for your time, Natasha. It's
thank
been
you for allowing me that.
Oh, absolutely. It's just
Get my
awesome to
side
see.
story.
Oh, of course, yes. And you're always welcome on. If there's ever any nonsense like this ever happens, I literally I texted you that Brian emailed me, and I was just talking over the weekend with the wife's like, man, I'm thinking about bringing Natasha back on. It's like, but I just don't know what we're going to talk about. Then I saw the controversy happens. Like, maybe I should bring her back on.
Well, you just wait till the next. I'm gonna call you when this next song it's a country song called "Give Me a Cowboy." And it's talking about give me a cowboy that's strong and honest and hardworking and loves God and country. And I want that type of man. I don't want the type of man that is I don't know, maybe I shouldn't even say it, but man,
don't say it. Cappuccino,
more feminine. I want a strong, hardworking man. And so that's something we don't have as much in our society. And I'm going to hit that topic. And I think it's a really cool song with a cool beat. I hope people will like it.
Yeah. And Natasha, where can people hear your song aside from the usual places? I guess I'm assuming YouTube Music,
Spotify?
Yeah,
anywhere you look for music. So all the streaming services, Spotify, Apple Music, you can stream it. You can purchase it on iTunes, of course, and all my other music, you can go to natashaowensmusic.com. That's a platform that shows all my social media, YouTube, Rumble. All my music videos are out on those. I'm putting out an album that's going to come out in August, September-ish. We're about to pick a date. Because I'm almost finished with it. I got one more song to do. And then all these songs that I put out over the past year from Trump 1 on is going to be on this album.
Oh, okay.
So you will be able to get hard copies of that through my website come into summer, first part of fall, natashaowensmusic.com.
Absolutely. And kudos to you for still providing hard copies because everybody's gone digital. I'm like, yeah, until they remove the licensing and then you can't access it anymore. So it's good on you for still providing good old fashioned digital means because I prefer digital. I mean, analog and digital because you just never know.
Yes. Well, people at concerts, they like physical product. And I even put out the past 2 albums on a USB that looks like a cassette, but it's a USB.
I remember seeing
out
it.
The bottom.
Yeah.
So that way you can plug it in and still get your digital copy.
Yeah.
But own it. Absolutely own it. You know.
Absolutely. And for everybody that's listening, especially in the podcast, you know the drill. All the links that Natasha referenced will be available on the show notes accompanying this episode at www.theandrewsegovia.com. Natasha, thank you so very much for joining me once again on the Andrew Segovia Show. Don't hang up, but this is where we'll leave it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
And that does it for this episode of The Andres Segovia Show. Remember to like, share, and subscribe and stay in the know. Follow me across the socials at The Andres Segovia, on X_Andres Segovia. And podcast listeners, make sure you're following me on one of the video platforms, preferably Rumble, because I'm doing a lot more live streaming. So be sure to follow me there so you don't miss out an episode when I put one out. That's it.